Hi everyone and welcome back. I hope that you are feeling really well today. It is officially eclipse season and I am really excited today to be speaking about the November 29th, November 30th penumbral lunar eclipse that we will be having. Depending on your time zone, it will either be late on November 29th or early on November 30th. And this is a very important eclipse to take into account because it really puts us into about a 3 to 4 week eclipse season. We will also be having a very strong total solar eclipse on December 14th. I'll be making a video about that, so be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn those notification bells on so you can get notified when I make that video, because that will kind of take us out of eclipse season, whereas this eclipse puts us into eclipse season. So this period of time between November 30th and December 14th will be extremely imperative to get right, okay? As everyone's noticed, I'm sure we've been going through an arduous year in 2020, and this eclipse season is what serves as the catalyst to either take us out of this extreme struggle, this very hard-hitting, laborious energy of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn will be changing over to Aquarius by December 20th. So this eclipse season is what flips the switch and prepares us spiritually and energetically for that shift, okay? This lunar eclipse itself is going to be happening on the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, on the nodal axis, okay? So what it does signify to me is a huge change in mentality, a huge shift in philosophy, and a really big difference in how we see the world around us, which I think is so manifest and so material. I mean, I was just looking at some old photos of myself with some family members in the year 2019, and I was thinking back to myself, gosh, this was only a year ago and things have changed so much. Like, we're all seeing life totally differently. We're all moving through our day and moving through our experience in a completely different way, and it's not the same anymore. It's almost like living in a different lifetime. So this eclipse season is going to highlight that, I think, and this eclipse season is going to give us the ability to do that again. So there's going to actually be a window to kind of jump back into the previous, or to jump back into old mentalities and maybe doing things in older ways, though what is more likely is another completely new way of going through life, another completely new way of looking at life, even compared to where we're at now. Okay, so yes, I am thinking that this time period between November 30th and December 14th will push us into yet another completely different feeling of looking at life, all right? So this video, I'm just going to isolate the penumbral lunar eclipse, and then I'll kind of maybe towards the end of the video talk about how I feel that leading up to the solar eclipse on December 14th. But let's take this sort of one step at a time here. So the first thing that I'm just going to look at is I'm going to pull up the chart here, and I'm going to look at what else is coming in and sort of dissect various parts of this eclipse. As I'm pulling that up, and before I get into that, as a lot of you know who've watched my other eclipse videos, I try to make videos on important eclipses. It's some of my favorite videos to make. And what an eclipse always means is that something comes in and something goes out. It is the removal and the addition of something. And with a lunar eclipse, that tends to be more so on the non-physical, emotional aspects of life. So it's the removal of emotional experiences and the addition of new emotional experiences. Although it could go either way with this particular eclipse, because like I said, we're building up to a solar eclipse 2 weeks after it. So a solar eclipse is the opposite. It's like the removal of something physical and the addition of something physical. So we're going to see complete drastic alterations to life as we have both emotional and physical things removed and added within this period of 2 weeks. So the first thing that's striking me as I'm looking at the chart for this eclipse is that there is a very assorted presence of signs, planets, and energies. There are not so many concentrations and focuses. There are not so many blank parts. In this particular chart, there are not many empty houses at all. So I think that this kind of has a confusing element to it where we don't really know exactly where the problems or the benevolences are. Okay, we don't really know, or it seems hard with this energy to really pinpoint things or to really understand what is coming from where. So I feel with that also being that this is a mutable eclipse, being it with the moon in Gemini and the sun in Sagittarius, it is significant also that the nodal axis is placed there. So it's all about ideology. It's all about philosophy. It's all about communication also. This isn't very tangible, though we do still have the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto direct in Capricorn. However, I feel that the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto direct in Capricorn is a good element of this energy. It is creating friction. It is creating blind spots, though, because it is a semi-sextile to this eclipse. So again, it's hard to pinpoint how we're utilizing that Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto energy. But these last direct degrees of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are going to really help us, I think, and they're going to really give us the real tangible ideas, in this case, with this eclipse, that we've needed. So what I'm actually feeling is we have to really think hard during this time of November, late November and early December. We have to think really hard about the way that we're thinking, okay? About how we're actually considering the world around us, about how we're actually integrating our physical actions with our thought processes about the world, okay? This is hard to explain, but I'm thinking that there is a very separated dimension between what our physical reality is and about what we are like wanting for ourselves and what we're dreaming of, what we're creating. I've felt this for about the last 6 months, and I think this eclipse season is going to really focus this. If I could find any area of focus, it is this, where we have our real life and we have what our real life consists of. And then we also have a very spirit body life where we're thinking of our purpose or we're dreaming of how things could be and we're manifesting. Like I've said, what a beautiful, beautiful time to manifest this is, especially with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto now direct. As we went through Scorpio season and even through Sag and Capricorn season, we can almost create anything that we want into real life. That is also maybe creating an area of friction, though, with this particular eclipse, because it feels like with the moon in Gemini, quincunx to the Capricorn energy, also quincunx to the Scorpio energy that is there as well. It's kind of like a yod. It's not very close in degrees, although the moon is exactly quincunx Venus almost. Though it is not exactly quincunx the Capricorn stellium. So we have a sort of disjointed yod formed, which is pointing to something. A yod always points, it gives like this super strong injection of powerful energy into one specific area. And it depends on what house it's falling on in your chart. Whatever house Gemini rules is where that would fall in your chart. And that would be a good place to look at personally, like what house you're being affected through that disjointed yod, because you would actually see, where you need to focus and where you need to actually get stronger by understanding what house Gemini rules in your chart. Because I think that points to a weak spot. That moon in Gemini yod angle is pointing to everybody's weak spot. So that's a really great way to gauge where you need to work in this transit. I'm also feeling that there's a re-innovation of how we energize too. So we talked a little bit about it quite a bit this year about where we're getting our energy from, about where we're actually seeing emotional energy at, because that's scarce this year. The idea of emotional energy, it's all about like physical routine and physical repetition. So as I intuitively try to understand this energy, it makes me feel quite tired. It makes me feel quite drained and sapped. So with the moon in Gemini, it's like this eclipse is really working hard to take away some of our bad emotional habits relating to how we maybe overthink things, or how we over communicate, or how we overdo, or how we try too hard to do things. It's like if you have insomnia, and you try to sleep, how well that works. That effort to sleep creates that much more difficulty. So there's something along those lines. Again, this is all in ideology. This is all in philosophy with this particular eclipse, where it's like, okay, when I have insomnia, how do I then make myself sleep? Well, it's not through saying, okay, I've got to sleep, or if I don't sleep, I'm gonna have all kinds of issues tomorrow, and I'm gonna miss that early appointment or whatever, or I'm gonna have to force myself through it and feel unhealthy. Now you're 10 times more awake, you know? So this moon in Gemini is really trying to highlight the habits that we have about trying to enforce a certain routine or enforce a certain thought process that gets us what we want, you know? And there's something a little bit broken about that. So this time of November 30th is the perfect time to get a complete idea of what is a little bit broken and to actually get the insights to start healing that. So we have Mars finally moving direct through Aries, and it's going to come up and it's going to approach Uranus over this eclipse season. It's going to be applying to Uranus. It's going to take it time, but we have a huge catalyst coming on. And this is really going to happen around that time of December 20th, December 21st, winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere, when we do get Jupiter and Saturn conjunct. Okay, that's really what the catalyst is going to be. But all of this comes together, and it starts with this eclipse season, and it starts as Mars applies up to Uranus. It's like running between Chiron and Uranus right now. And that's really significant. I would note also that Mars is quincunx Venus and Mercury, not quite Mercury because of degree, but it is quincunx Venus. So how many quincunx angles we are dealing with? It's pretty crazy to think about, actually. And it's pretty tough. It says to me that every single place of opportunity or every single place of self-discovery also comes with a glitch or a hiccup, all right? And that won't last very long. And of course, being that it is so intensely knotted up, the energy, you know, being that it is that way, there is a lot of opportunity for creating new energy, for creating new dreams, new goals, completely new, uncontextual ideas. But I wouldn't try to put those things in action right this second. So really, you know, I've been saying it, beware of sudden impulses right now to make big changes, to do really, you know, overarching, crazy, you know, things that you've never done before. Still, that's not a good time. But once we get into the new year of 2021, that will become really possible and really right. This is the perfect time to get those epiphanies. I kind of feel like this eclipse is actually an epiphany for some people, because it's like there are just enough knots, just enough detours, just enough things that have just come together but yet are threatened for us to have to get really resourceful. And for us to have to get really savvy and really capable of untying knots, all right? Okay, I'm getting chills. That is what this eclipse is about. It's about the resourcefulness to overcome things which feel totally destroyed or ruined or incoherent or untangleable. Like things are so tangled up, it feels like. And that's kind of like the time that we're tested, like, okay, will we just throw this away? You know, say you've got like a really bad tangle in your hair and you're like, okay, am I going to like work this out or am I just going to cut this off? You know, that's sort of what this energy is like as well. And that can really show someone's character too, you know, like how long will we work with something that is, you know, really annoying. A lot of people want to, you know, change something or get rid of something or release something. I wouldn't do it impulsively. So anything along those lines, stopping a business, stopping a field of study, stopping a career, cutting something off drastically is possible. That Gemini energy can be that way. Like Gemini does not stay in situations that are no longer beneficial in some way, you know. Gemini, again, is quincunx to Capricorn and Scorpio, and that is represented in this chart. Wow. And both of those signs, Capricorn and Scorpio, are kind of like loyal to a fault and will never stop things. They like never leave things behind. Like they do something until they reach the point that they get to. And that's why it's a quincunx. That's why it's a difficult angle, is because Gemini has a more keen understanding of when things are too far gone, when things should not be, you know, should not be kept on, you know, because it's too much of a liability. So the understanding of what is a liability in your life, the understanding of what is too far gone, I don't think needs impulsive action right now, but it does need to be seen for what it is. And then there comes that testing point where we either untangle that or we leave it behind or we just cut it off, So of course this lunar eclipse is happening while the moon is full in Gemini. That is the only time that you can get a lunar eclipse is during a full moon. It is always about, full moon in Gemini, the understanding of your process. It's Mercury energy, it's mercurial, so it's about routine, process, communication, travel, short distance travel, and about how things are communicated. So information, how some new information really shining brightly is full moon in Gemini. It's like the discovery of a new, very clear information. So I think that a lot of us might learn something new. And also having that kind of eclipsed as well, because this is an eclipse. So the eclipsing of information, a potential downturn to this eclipse is not knowing something or having something that you needed to know being eclipsed out or shaded out. So definitely watch out for partnerships or for anything where you're like relying on a lot of other people to be honest with you. I do see like deception with this. So lies, dishonesty with full moon eclipse in Gemini. It's about communication. It's about messages. So unseen messages, deleted messages, anything along those lines could be definitely seen with this eclipse. Though aside from that sort of mundane potential interpretation, I feel at a more collective level, this is more so trying to help us, okay? From the degree that we are maybe giving ourselves way too many thoughts or messages that are impossible to interpret, way too many frenetic notions about what we need to do and where we need to be, to the point that we are not calibrated well and we're not actually, in a focused way, asserting our energy well and methodically. So with this eclipse, the positive side is that you can actually nullify or turn off some of these like really frenetic, over electric energies that you're going through. That's what Gemini rules. And you can actually get a much more level and keen sense of information perceived in your conscious mind. That's where this transit will really shine, and that's where we'll do really well, is from the standpoint that maybe there are some thought patterns or obsessive tendencies or just electric overwhelm that really does need to be eclipsed personally, okay? That's where this is very positive. And yes, where it's negative is it does kind of seem like we're not really allowed to see what we want to see, or we're not really maybe getting the intuitive spiking, and this is the moon, which deals with intuition and that type of insight, instinct, with it being in Gemini, it's about the instinct and the intuition becoming conscious and becoming mercurial. With the eclipse, it's like a disconnect between that deeper subconscious or unconscious, deep intuitive lower brain experience of life feels cut off from the conscious mind. So I think that we can all kind of perceive that a little bit. I see that running really rampant right now, where we know that we want to make a certain type of progress, or we know that we want to get on a certain bandwagon, but something's just not connecting about it. Like, okay, I know I want to fill this role. I know that I want to have this change in my output, but I just really can't bridge the gap. I'm dreaming about it, but I'm not implementing that. This full moon eclipse in Gemini leading up to the December 14th total solar eclipse is going to really deal with these things. And I believe that past the new year, we're going to find that connecting, bridging apparatus that we've needed for so long, if we can keep ourselves sane and coast through this time. Still, it's a good time for coasting and autopilot, I think. What I also want to talk about really quickly in this video is about the feeling of full circle. Okay, so this is kind of getting us past this eclipse point. I don't think we'll feel this way much unless you're super psychic and you're already feeling it coming on. But after we get through the time of November 30th and we move towards December 14th, so that whole entire span of 2 weeks, what I'm feeling is that we come full circle with things, and we are in the very true final moments of the Capricorn triple conjunction. We've been catalyzed by a lunar eclipse. Our emotions start to feel differently. Maybe we wake up to how we've always wanted to feel. Maybe we realize that it wasn't that person or that relationship, but it is how we connected with them and chose to consciously connect with them that made the perfect union, even if it was cut short. So to me, there's a really strong feeling of philosophizing around that which has been cut short and coming full circle with it. So true closure happening on the inside, possible, re-meeting or reconnecting with something that felt like it could never reconnect again is possible. I don't want you guys to go crazy with it. I don't want anybody to go crazy with that because, if it happens, it happens, but it's kind of an unfortunate use of the energy if you make that your sole priority. It's more about coming full circle with yourself and understanding, okay, like I now understand why I could never get over that person. I now understand why I never had the energy to get out of bed at that time. I now understand why I could never connect or associate in the right way with those people. And I understand why I couldn't forgive myself for that. Now I understand how to be truly self-propelling and to be truly without the need for my own significance determined by others. Now I understand that, and I feel like chills, okay? Like and I've been getting chills through this entire video. I usually do with eclipses because to me, eclipses are some of the most profound astronomical and astrological events we can go through. So they always just come with a profound insight, and this one especially because, again, the Gemini-Sagittarius axis that this eclipse is happening on is strange given the other bodies that are transiting right now. It doesn't really connect well to any of them. So that can bring with it a few difficulties, true, but also it's kind of like the unexpected resolve or waking up, after this eclipse or even now, realizing like without even trying, I've totally karmically walked out of that old, story, many chapters, many sequels, many stories of never-ending crisis. And I didn't even realize it, but I totally karmically walked out of that. Or waking up now and realizing, okay, now I am really over that person. Or now I am really no longer connected in nearly a destructive way to the concept of money or the concept of career. I actually am waking up now and maybe understanding what time, money, and energy really mean and how those three concepts come together. And it's not about labor. It's not about selling my time. It's not about, also having enough money to buy designer goods or something. Like there's a really, really nice, without even trying, wake up calls, just fitting closure that just happens without that much conscious effort. And yes, there is something about philosophy and thought processes and about, the way that we click things and the way that we have these epiphanies and the way that we, finally discover the moral of a story and are no longer trialed with the minutia of what those stories represented to begin with. So yeah, it's very broad. And yes, because it's so broad, it is out of touch with the other bodies, with, the Capricorn and Scorpio energy happening right now. It wants more of a fixated, focused work ethic to get through these things. So it is weird to me. There's something odd about that, combination. So you definitely expect as you're trying to fix your budget or as you're trying to fix your income that you suddenly, without trying and having put your effort toward that, have a new love language or have a new closure relating to an old relationship. Definitely expect as you're working on your health and maybe you're starting to take vitamins, you're starting to, eat more organic foods and you're really trying to maybe get over an autoimmune disease, that within that you actually no longer have a rift in your family or an estrangement is healed or something along those lines. And for the last year, we've been out of that territory pretty much where roundabout spiritual karmic results come that way. But this puts us back into that. This eclipse season is actually inspiring that again. I'm not sure how long it will last, though I would say it will be constant throughout the Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius, because that's what Aquarius is all about. It's the water bearer, it's the transferring, it's the alchemy or the transience, the transcendence of various things. So it's roundabout right now, and that's interesting. You know, I see flashbacks as well with this lunar eclipse specifically. The solar eclipse is more about reality and real things, but this lunar penumbral eclipse, I'm seeing flashbacks. I'm seeing that we are going to remember some of the situations and some of the memories or some of the experiences that really formed us. And we're going to kind of go back and maybe even having dreams about old memories, maybe remembering things that we'd forgotten about, maybe remembering people's faces better, you know? It's interesting. If you try really hard to remember someone's face, it's actually quite difficult. There's something about the face that is struggles with memory, but it's like this transit kind of makes us remember the face better of someone in our life in the past. Maybe it's the face of a business, or it's the face of anything. It's like the face really is defined with this. So that's very interesting. It's kind of really identifying the features that we are seeing. So yes, very allegorical as well. And I think to conclude, the main important thing to take into account right now is that we have a lot of power or capability to set the tone of our lives. Again, this axis of Sagittarius and Gemini is all about tone, philosophy, mental conscious realization. It's very non-tangible, okay? So we have a tangible, very strong need to make material things real or set or done with the Scorpio and Capricorn still transiting. But this eclipse is going to point us more toward how we're interpreting things in our life. What is a good or bad situation to us? How do we define our own good and bad? How do we define, the setting of something? Is living here good or bad? Does it even fall on that scale? What tone am I giving every single situation? Am I making every single situation harder than it has to be? Am I not acknowledging what could go wrong? Am I being blind also to problem areas? Am I unwilling or unaccepting of, certain realities that are there that need to be seen and need to be taken into account now? So the tone of our environment, the way that we signal to ourselves, signals, that's a big word. The signal of something being off, or the signal of something being ready for a change, or ready for a new philosophy, or ready for a new thought process, ready for a new chain of events. How we plan all of that, how we strategize around all of that. That's really what this eclipse deals with. And as I said, with an eclipse, something comes, something goes. With a lunar eclipse, it tends to be emotional or mindset based or intuition based. So lining all those things up, it is like a, realization of thought and tone that goes, and there's a reestablishment of a tone, or there's a new way of looking at things, or an old way of looking at things that becomes more predominant. And I think as that happens, we have to draw some kind of conclusion. So that's what I'm feeling for this lunar eclipse, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and checking out this video. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button below so that more people can see information about this penumbral lunar eclipse. Also, be sure to comment too. That really helps the YouTube algorithm. And I also love hearing your feedback. What did you think of this interpretation? Are you going through any of this? What is your opinion on this eclipse? I would love to hear it in the comments below. I'm really interested. And hit that share button too. If this resonated and you know anyone else who might be interested in these types of things, hit that share button. You can share it through, text, through Twitter, through Instagram, through Facebook. It's really, a lot of different ways that you can share this content. And be sure to share it if you would like to help the channel grow and give this information to other people. I also just made a video about Saturn and astrology last week. And it was really profound and great to talk about Saturn, something I'd wanted to do for a long, long time. So I'm going to link that video in the center of the screen. Be sure to check it out if you haven't. And even if you have, I would so appreciate it if you might be able to revisit it and listen back to those Saturn insights. So that's going to be in the center of the screen. And I have a lot of other relevant topics on my channel if you would like to look at any of those other videos. And on that note, thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you have a wonderful week and a wonderful experience of this penumbral lunar eclipse. Much love. Bye.